Patupaiarehe. Right. Ready to go then. Yeah, so we'll have a bit of ambient noise in the background, but that adds to the tradition of having our SK Awards at the pub. Just on that note, the Southern Cross has always been great to us Tuesday nighters. Nigel will be is a friend of the owner or the ex-owner, and he's always let us run from here. We used to be able to use the showers in the old days up in the staff room, and we got a bit kicked out with the new owners, but they've still looked after us in the corner. But it's just, we've got so many fond memories of this place, and it's just apt that we have the awards here because it's a neat vibe, neat venue. So help yourself to food as we go. It's a fairly informal affair. We'll be doing it. Yeah, so you're gonna have to listen to us over and above the quiz, but you might know some of the questions as well. So, yeah. So the plan for the evening is I do my little intro about the year, what's happened, the vibe of the SK, where we've come from. The years are going by quick. The faces are becoming familiar. There's a cast of people. There's a lot of mountain experience in this room from all ages, from the young to the old. I think the thing that bonds us all together is a kindred spirit of the outdoors. You don't have to. You can be young, you can be old, you can be 80, you can be 50, you can be 52, which is yeah. You can be all ages, but you're all bound together by that love of the outdoors and love of adventure and the bonds that you can achieve through it, and the people you meet and everyone you meet and who do these things. So I don't know why it is, but they're all good buggers. I think part of it is because of your safety depends on each other, so you develop really good bonds. That's slightly a different kind of story, but we all know that it's magic out there in the wilderness, and there's so many good people. So the plan for the evening is I'll do a little intro of the evening of the SK, where it's come from, the stats of the year, who's done what. Then we'll hand over to Andy, who's also the audio-visual specialist for tonight, and he's going to talk about his awesome project that he's been involved in during the year with his SK documentary. If it does get to Banff, I'm going with him. I told him. And then we'll have 3 awesome talks by 3 great adventurers. We'll introduce them one by one as they come. They've got their presentations ready, each about 20 minutes, a second over, and they'll be cut back. Dave, I'm sure we could have an hour on everyone's talk. And then we'll have the Patupaiarehe award, and I think it's an awesome award that Tim spent a long time on, and you can see how magic the work is, and it really does embody the soul and the spirit, and his words that he puts around it really adds weight to what it really signifies. It's for an achievement over and above all mountain achievements that we've seen in the year. The level keeps going up. We saw Michael Stewart's amazing 3-peat SK. I don't know if that'll ever be matched, but we've seen some phenomenal mountain sort of achievements in the years that have gone by, and just so much amazing stuff that goes on from the initial Graham Dingle days of setting that SK Tarn as a concept. I remember seeing an article in the paper, and it's just for me it feels like I went to that Shackleton movie the other day, and just that's what it is. It's the spirit of adventure, and we're all following in the footsteps of those sort of people. So what I'll do is just do a quick prelim. So this has been going about 8 years now, I think, all our SK talks. So for me, a personal journey was I was doing runs in the wilderness, and we'll all remember Chris Waller. I'll just have a quick word about Chris. We all loved Chris. He died in the Isle of Man TT motorcycle race. Running wasn't his main passion, it was motorbikes, but he really just got everyone going, saying we can really go big. and we're following in his footsteps. I think he had a vision for the SK. I mean, he appreciated what had been done here with Colin Rolfe and the history of the SK, which Andy will talk about. But he also said he'd done the Bob Graham round, and he was motivated. He was an adventurous spirit, and he just pushed this group on. And I've done some of the formality around it in the website and stuff, and it's really paying dividends. So what I'll do is just talk about the 3 types of SKs. So we all probably realise what the SK is. It's the length of the Tararuas. There are 3 different options. There's the main range, which is the Holy Grail, which is basically what this award evening's about. It's following in the footsteps of the Bob Graham round certificate evening that they have for all sub-24 finishers. That's the mantle you have to achieve to get the certificate. That's the benchmark. I mean, you could do 24.05. It's an amazing achievement, but you haven't gone sub-24. So doesn't count. I did a 24.17 valleys, doesn't count. It wasn't on the website, so no, it's awesome. If you can do any of these things in a single push, like I have done the SK main range in 2 days. I don't know how anyone does it in single push. So, in all respects, anyone that actually sets foot on the start line at the beginning of these things is a hero, because they've got the courage to go further and beyond the more what more normal people will do. So, whatever happens, you're a bit of a legend. So we've got the main range, you've got the Tarn, which is the Graham Dingle route that initially he set in 1985. We've got the SK Valleys, which is the 3rd informal route, not informal, sort of the route I consider for mere mortals. If you're fit and you've got mortal ability, you should consider this. It's a magic route. It's tough still, like phenomenally tough. It's a 24-hour route, but you can get out at the variety of road ends. The main ridges and the Tarn's harder to get out if you're committed. As this thing grows, I always do appreciate that people need to consider. We all know as wilderness experienced people what the respect you have to give to the environment, to the wilderness, New Zealand wilderness. It really makes you need respect. Every one of us have had, situations where we've gone, this is getting a little bit not out of control, but have made us on edge. We've all made mistakes. So the legacy is to pass on our knowledge to the less experienced and get them up to that level whilst looking after each other. But to treat New Zealand wilderness with respect is a really crucial aspect of this. If this is to grow, we don't want it to become something where people think, because so many people are doing these amazing things, it's something you can rock up and do. You can't. You have to have real respect for the outdoors and the weather. So what I'll just do is say the SK main range, so the first was Colin Rolfe, and the first sub-24 was Colin Rolfe in 95, and Andy will elaborate on this. The last main range person we had was Aaron Whiteford, and this year was the first year we have had no sub-24 main ranges, so we haven't got the certificate handout. So Aaron's over in France at the moment, but he machined it. I do feel that this has been a particularly brutal season with the rain and the mud and the overgrown. It's been really tough. So it's been probably the toughest year in terms of how tough the environment is at the moment up there. There were 3 epic attempts, and Kelly Davenport, Angus Watson, I think it is, and their mountaineer friend from down south. Is it Gabriel? What, sorry? Ward. Well, Angus Ward, yeah, and they had a friend from down south, didn't they, a mountaineer? Gabriel Corbin, yeah. So they were going really well to Mangahuka. I think they were under 24-hour splits, and they were apparently they were in really good spirits, but the weather just really came in. And that's the other aspect of this route. You have to know when to call it, and they wisely called it because it was getting dangerous. But they were going really well, and hopefully they'll have another go at some stage. There was another attempt by Eleanor Ruahine, who's talking tonight about her phenomenal main ridge traverse of the Ruahines with Katie Wright. She didn't do the SK main range attempt with Katie, but she did it with her friend Matt Bailey. Hope that's correct. And they managed 29 hours, so it just shows you how tough that route is, because they are I know Eleanor's a machine, so 29 hours in a single push, and also Martin Setti and Grant Pritchard, another 29-hourer, and I saw the out with Joe Murphy, went along with them to sort of chaperone them down the 24. I would demand my money back off Joe because he didn't give you a sub 24. But he, as we all know, Joe Murphy's a bit of a legend. He's doing 1 SK a month at the moment. Where is he? Is he not even here tonight? I don't know. He's in the hills. So he'll be in the valleys. I think we all realise he's doing 1 SK a month at the moment. He's done 16 in total. He's just not human, basically. But he took them along on that main range, and I saw the GoPro video, and they were not mucking around. So they were moving fluidly, and I was thinking, if they're moving that fluidly and they're doing 29, it just shows you how good these people are. They're going sub 24 because they're not mucking about. They're moving quick. So that was the main range this year. So we've sadly got no certificates to hand out. We had who else? Sorry. Oh right, yeah. Yeah, Chamonix did, didn't she? Yeah, well, she was a friend, yeah. So, sorry, Chamonix, if you get to watch this video. I've done a few missions with Chamonix. She's a machine. Really lovely, lovely lady. Yeah, they were going well. They had to pull the pin at Mangahooker as well. And they're moving away. Oh, Chamonix's moving away, unfortunately, to Nelson, as I understand it. A lot of people are moving to Nelson, Mark. Why is everyone going to Melbourne? Stop people going to Nelson. What's good about Nelson? We got it.
Just creating new adventures.
Oh, you're going as well, aren't you? Oh. New adventures. There's bigger mountains. We got Tararuas, mate. You don't need to move down there. Yeah. Yeah. So Martin and Grant did 29 as well. So they'll be towing the start line again, I'm sure, next year. Okay, I'll move it along a bit because we've got 3 talks, etc. Tarn Ridge, we had Sean Martin and Joe Murphy did a sub 24, 23.55. That's the 34th Tarn SK. That's pretty impressive over the years. They just got under 5 minutes under. So that was an amazing effort that they managed that. That was awesome. And Stephen Molyneux did a reverse main range KS, didn't you, Stephen? That was the main range? Yeah, so that was another, he's a premium member. Premium member means you've done every SK, main range, Tarn and valleys, all in under sub 24. It's a special club, and that's pretty impressive. And there's actually another group that have actually reversed them all. I think Stephen's on the path to doing sub 24, reversing the other directions as well. Man of the mountains right there. And in the SKV class, we've had 84 successes now. And I'll just put my glasses on. So we had Nick Blair, Jeremy Bray, Vincent Smith, Jonathan Armstrong's done 2 this year, I think. Didn't you? 2 sub 24s. 1 with extreme chafing, mate. It's for extra pain. Eh? Always chafing. Extreme chafing, yeah. Apparently, Carolyn was saying when she went in to see you were working like John Wayne down the Taranaki Valley. But you still made it, mate. That I just can't imagine doing that. That's so impressive, eh? To do 2 sub. He's got big goals next year. And actually, on that subject, Jonathan, we met Jonathan at one of the huts in the Tararuas, and he had all his old school kit. He's all modernised now. But it really is impressive what he did. I think he did all the huts and all the 1500s in a year, was it? Or 6 months? Yeah. Far out. That is amazing, eh? It's just immense what he's done there. Just imagine getting to all the dock huts and the 1500s and Tararuas in 6 months. So there wasn't much staying home at the weekends in that 6 months. Ryan Tate, I believe, was the youngest ever SKV. He's here tonight. Well done, Ryan. That was an epic Valleys attempt, or success. And Jim Murphy. And Tom Hadley just recently. He's another speaker for tonight. We'll be talking about his Southern Alps, or the group that he was with, Southern Alps Traverse.
And Harriet and Phil King.
Did they do it this year? I thought it was last year. So Harriet, Carr, and Phil Kinnan also did the valleys this year. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Did you do it this year, Daryl? Wherever it is. Oh, Daryl, I didn't realise it was this year. Sorry. And it was Daryl and Gwen. And Emma. Yeah, Daryl, Gwen, and Emma also did an SKV. So that's 8 SKVs sub 24 in 1 year. Don't know. They're all doing them. Anyway, people are saying, everyone's saying it's easy. It's certainly not easy. It's a sufferfest. I tell you, it's still 3,000 metres of climbing and relentless valleys, but it's awesome. So that's that wrap up, and I'll hand you over to what?
We had Tim pioneering a new SK road this year.
Oh yeah, of course.
Somebody needs to double down on that and make it an official road.
Yeah.
I've been busy.
Yes. Tim is a premium gold, done everything in the Tararua's SK world, and he's pioneered another SK, and we'll put it on the website, the Tararua Speed Records website. You can. What was the route again?
What's that?
What was the route again?
Kaitokie. It's a variation of the picnic.
The SK with the car key.
Yeah, I just
Dog leg.
had to yell at the
Car key.
It wasn't a very inspiring picnic. We had banana loaf when I did it with
Yeah.
Steve.
Was September 22nd, 2022, was that this year?
We'll have to talk to. Who knows? All I know is if Al Shelton was here, he'd tell me the sea
Kevin Locke and Joe Murphy and I did one in September.
in the valleys.
Yeah, that counts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that counts. Yeah. Sorry for not taking it. You've got enough glory, mate. It doesn't matter. That's like a training jog for you. Premium member. So there's a lot of SK valleys. We have to check when the season begins and ends there with the dates. But if Al Sheldon was here, he'll tell you the season never ends, which blows my mind. So you can do an SK in the winter months as well if you really respect the terrors.
Couple of days and there's no smart there.
Yeah, that's great. Anyway, it's been a great year, and it's always great to see other people doing these. Oh, anyway, I better wrap up, otherwise we'll be here all night, and I'll hand over to Andy. Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Well, I'm going to just steal a quote from Joe Murphy. And pretty much for the last few months, I've been experiencing feeling like a little kid, and it's the night before Christmas. And, you know, Christmas has been getting closer and closer, and, you know, tonight is maybe a little taste of Christmas, where I get to share something with you that I've been working on for at least the last year, and my wife would tell you that I've really been working on it probably for about 7 or 8 years. So last year I went to the New Zealand Mountain Film Festival, and they run a adventure filmmaking course, and I did their course. And the reason I did their course was because for years I've been going on these amazing mountain adventures with my GoPro, coming back, making these little trip videos and showing mainly my kids and my mum and going, check this out, it's so cool. And they're like, yeah, you know, I'd rather go and do something else. I'm like, okay, well, clearly I'm not communicating what it was, you know, like what it was like. So I'm going to go to film school and I'm going to learn how to communicate this. And when I was down in Wanaka at the film school, what they said to me, well, one of the things that they said to me is, it's all about the people, it's all about the story. That's what communicates, you know, that experience and that wow that you want to get out there. And at the moment, your wobbly GoPro clips and your kind of crappy music over the top of it really isn't cutting the mustard. So, yeah, so the last year has been this journey on how to go from those wobbly GoPros to something which tells a story. And I'm so excited about what's been created. And like, one of the amazing things about making this film is the people that I've got to talk to and the conversations that I've had. So the first people to ever successfully complete the SK Weekend Challenge were Dave Kappa and Bruce Jeffries in 1963. Dave Kappa's now 92. He lives in Carterton, and him and his wife, Hillary, you know, invited me into their home to sit there and film him and interview him about the SK in the early years. And it was just mesmerizing. And you know, one of the things that's incredible about the SK is that, you know, for years it was this really important adventure in the tramping community. And then it kind of died. For 20 years, from the mid-90s, after Colin Ralph broke 24 hours, there were very few documented attempts. Then when Chris Swallow, you know, really revived the SK and, you know, created it as a mountain running challenge. Little fun fact for you, so Chris Swallow and Dave Kappa were both born in Yorkshire, both Yorkshiremen, and, you know, both inspired from, you know, the fell running in those areas. So the thing that I've found is that, like, the spirit of the SK it's magical, and it's been celebrated and enjoyed, you know, for 60 years, and it will be for many, many more years to come. So I've made this film. I've got a little bit of a trailer to show you tonight, and the film has been selected for the New Zealand Mountain Film Festival, which so it's not just my mum that thinks it's good. So, you know, we're super excited about going down to Wanaka and seeing it premiere there. And then a couple of days later, we've got a screening here in Wellington at the Penthouse, which is going to be amazing. Love for you all to be there. We've got some posters and some QR codes if you want to grab tickets. It's going to be a fundraiser for the Dingle Foundation. Sir Graham Dingle features in the film. I got to interview him. That was amazing. So let me play you a little bit of it.
Just wish I'd brush my teeth before I came.
How would I sum up an SK? Transcendent.
Yeah, and then we just decided to go for it, even though the forecast wasn't very good. I'd never do that again. gale force winds, it was clag. I got bluffed out, went the wrong way, couldn't see what I was doing, dropped my phone. I was really scared. I remember leaving Kime Hut in the dark, and it was just, windy, rainy.
Chris Swallow was doing a solo supported attempt. He was so far ahead of schedule, he beat Al Shelton to the food drop. So he seasoned some lukewarm Hut canola oil with salt and pepper and put it in his gel bottle. It was so disgusting. He would squirt this on the back of his throat, swallow fast, fight the urge to vomit, then try to take the taste away with a nibble of a Snickers bar. You're unlikely to read or hear about the S-K. You have to go deep into the tramping or mountain running community, where you'll find characters like Tim Sutton.
Still got a few nerves at the start of the S-K. It's amazing when you finally get to the top.
Tim was the first person to win a pretend reserved space in the dusty road end car park of Glory.
Got an email from Chris Martin saying, "Here's your next challenge, mate." I didn't know about the history of the route at that stage. I just knew I loved being a part of this crazy adventure with this guy, Chris Swallow, and his mate Lawrence, because none of my mates were doing something that epic.
Graham Dingle, we hated because he ran it in 18 hours, very shortly afterwards. But he cheated because he had Hutt Valley Tramping Club members putting caches in all over the place, and he didn't carry anything.
People that didn't really know the lay of the land said, "Oh, but Dingle's done it in 18 hours." But Dingle did the Dingle route.
It's quite taken with it. It made it sound really epic, sort of hallucinating and falling over and bloody seeing monsters and stuff. I thought, yeah, it must be something else.
When I look back at it, I had expected it to sort of stretch me to the absolute limit, but it didn't.
The beauty of the S-K is you're just a page in history. You're joining this sort of long history of the route and of all of the people that have had the adventures there as well.
About 3 weeks before setting off to do the S-K, I decided I could break 4-minute mile, and I knew it ahead, but I knew it was just a matter of hanging on.
We didn't know anything about the route, but we just knew that this fella called Colin Rolfe had done it. I never met the guy, but I knew he was 12 foot tall and had tree trunk sized legs and all the rest of it.
Oh, it's awesome. It's such a good community. I didn't expect it to be so good and to, just be able to come along and have chats with anyone so easily, and everyone's just so willing to share their adventures or advice, and it's just really encouraging.
It's all about the glory. Complete one of the 3 routes in one push. Buy yourself a t-shirt and get an invite to the awards event. Do all 3 routes in under 24 hours and win a pretend space in the dusty road end car park of Glory.
We lost our friend Swallow. He has inspired so many of us to challenge ourselves, to push further, faster, higher. We've got a swallow on the shaft. This is actually the same design that he...
Yeah, so love for you to see the rest of it. It's pretty cool. So, and while I'm here, just before we get into the talks, there's some huge thank yous to some people who have contributed massively to this film. Tim Sutton, thank you. Flipping amazing. Joe Murphy. So Tim and Joe put up with my slow old timer B, maybe C pack pace, so that we could get up there and film some of the footage. And we had an amazing experience. And Megan, we got to enjoy your company down the range, and we've got a few shots in there. You're looking good. And lots of yeah. And for all of the people that came and interviewed, Jean and Chris and a bunch of others, and thank you to all of you who were in the footage here at the cross. And is Nick here? Fantastic! I love that fall. That's just a lovely piece. So, all right.
Thanks, Andy. That was awesome by the looks of it, eh?
Yeah.
The first talk of the night from the adventure talk section of the things that have happened the last year or two, big mountain missions. There's Eleanor Ruahine. So I'm going to ask you to come up and take the microphone. Miss Eleanor, who did something pretty epic, the length of the Ruahines with her good friend, you probably know the name Katie, right? She's always in social media for doing some pretty phenomenal backyard ultras, variety of ultras. Yeah, so get yourself comfortable, grab another beer or something if you need it, and then get Eleanor cracking on her speech. And if you guys want to grab a seat at the back, most welcome to sit around the corner. So. Do you need any?
Yep, recording. A little red REC at the top.
All the goods? Yeah, something a little bit different. Still PSR ratings.
Hi everyone, my name's Ali. I know some of you, I've met some of you before, some of you I haven't. Yeah, I just want to say it's a privilege to be here talking in front of such amazing adventurers. And it's a bit of a shame, I think Al's not here tonight, is he? CL was like really his sort of project that I picked up, and unfortunately he wasn't able to, well, hadn't been able to see it through. So I'm a bit lucky to sort of have him as the brainchild for this mission. So anyway, I know that yeah, instead of sort of running through a blow-by-blow account of what it is, I'm actually just going to share with you what my experience was. It's really easy to look at, see somebody's achieved something amazing and not actually think about everything that goes into the build-up, all the emotions that go on during the adventure. And so I just kind of want to share with you more of like my personal experience of what went into doing this mission. So I know that many of you have a special relationship with the Tararua. It's kind of like your special place or a bit of a spiritual connection. And for me, that place is the Ruahines. So I've spent probably most of the last 10 years kind of running around, tramping, like around just exploring the area. And I thought tramping was really all you could do. And then along came BSR and the idea of running and of doing a CL. So the concept of a Ruahine traverse originated from Mad Pom, was modified by Chris Martin and Jonathan Ravens before being tweaked into the CL, as we know it, by Al. So what is the CL? It's essentially the SK main range of the Ruahines, 92 Ks of predominantly tops from Comet Road up here in the north down to Limestone Road near Apathy. It's different to the Tararuas. It's got really distinct landscapes between the northern and the southern ends. It's less travelled, so there's less footpads, a lot more navigation. There's a lot of leatherwood, bashing, spear grass, tussock wading, scree and route finding. The navigation's more intense and the sections that are technical are definitely more technical. CL was estimated to take a minimum of 30 hours, which was a daunting prospect. I had no idea whether I was even capable of doing such a feat, but thought, what the heck, we might as well give it a go. So, spoiler alert, we did it. Because you all know that. So a really long time after Katie and I started, we carefully climbed over the stile at Limestone Road on tender blistered feet. These are Katie's feet. Having completed the first known single push of the Ruahine CL. And while that is definitely an achievement in itself, it's all the bits in the build-up and the middle that cemented friendship, built self-confidence, and were genuinely life-changing and impactful. So as I said, I was initially introduced to the concept of a CL in early 2020. But then, as you know, we all had COVID and lockdowns and winter, and during that time I actually met Katie. I gradually became obsessed with the CL and did a lot of research. I estimated splits, calculated calories, weighed gear and graphed river levels, and as you can see, I am a bit of a spreadsheet geek. I had zero idea of whether I could actually do it, but confidently declared, I'm going to do it before I'm 35, which was on 20th of December. I was torn between excitement and wanting to tell everyone, and fear of failure and not wanting to tell anyone. So starting in November, I checked the weather, organised transport, packed my bag, rechecked the weather, unorganised transport, and unpacked my bag. All the while telling Katie why she should join me, because she was banging on about doing a Tarn S-K recce instead. But finally the good weather arrived, and with it the low river levels. I got time off work and told my family and close friends with a confidence I didn't feel, it's going to happen. No backing out now. Everything was prepared, so I kept my mind focused in the present and tried not to worry about the plethora of things that could go wrong. I'd done what I could do, and the rest would be up to the Ruahines and the universe. And I was obviously convincing enough, because on Monday the 14th of December 2020, Katie and I stood outside Comet Hut, watching our ride drive off and hoping like hell we would make it to the end, trying not to think how much ground lay ahead. And it really did feel like we were stepping into the unknown. It's a little disconcerting knowing that there had already been several unsuccessful attempts, like maybe the odds weren't stacked in our favour, but you don't know unless you try, right? So, try we did. So leaving Comet Hut, we climbed through the wilding pine forest and then plunged deeply down to the Torea River, which is our first big pinch point. It looks innocent enough, but it's quite swift flowing and has really deep channels and can easily become impassable. We were relieved to cross it without difficulty, and my shorts only got a little bit wet, so it was quite shallow. Then we went up to Schute's Hut through swathes of long grass. And then from then it got really hot, travelling through the open clay pans in the blazing sun. And for those of you that know, there's actually two kind of ways you can go. So there's a whole section of iwi land that you need permission to cross, or you have to kind of drop down into a river and go up to stay within the dock boundary, which is what we did. So when we dropped down, we got into the river and it was really slippery, and we slid our way downstream worrying about where the exit point was and would we miss it. But finally we spotted a couple of orange triangles on an overhanging branch and exited the river, climbing up to No Man's Road. 4 k's of gravel road later, and we were surrounded by a group of hunters at No Man's Hut. To say they were surprised to see us is an understatement. I wish I'd kept the GoPro filming. At first they were baffled and then grew increasingly excited. They thought we'd run a really long way, but we were only 18 k's in. We were offered an array of food and drinks ranging from beer to hot tea to fresh seafood chowder, all of which we politely turned down. We were ahead of our splits and wanted to make the most of the daylight. So leaving the gravel road, we headed out onto the nice open tops, which quickly became deep tussock wading with hidden speargrass clumps, before turning into an alternating mix of boggy and bushy tracks. We sat outside the derelict Oranga hut, shivering and eating dinner, while low cloud blew in and the temperature dropped by several degrees. I hated being cold. I wanted to go home. Instead, we got up and kept moving. We pushed quickly through the next section, and it was through here that Kyle messaged Katie to ask if we were going to do a Tararua mission in the next couple of days. He'd obviously figured out something was going on. And I told Katie she could sort of tell him where we were. So she said, I'm not allowed to tell you where we are until we get to Howlett's hut. So of course, he knew what we were doing. Nearing Kylie Biv, the headlamps came out and the waterproofs went on to block the chill of the night wind. And then for hours and hours, it got dark. So at first the low cloud continued to roll through and made it really difficult to see with our headlamps bouncing back. But when it dissipated, we could see the pinpricks of stars and lights of Napier, Hastings and the Central Hawke's Bay settlements. We'd negotiated the top of several slips, and again I was really grateful I'd been there before. We became briefly disorientated as we followed a small animal trail down a spur. Thankfully, it didn't take me long to realise, and I put my faith in the GPS rather than where I thought we were, and soon we were back on the right ridge. The sections of deep tussock and alpine scrub through here offer no clear ground trail, so you constantly have to focus on navigation. We double-checked each other all the time to make sure we were confident we were on course. Nothing like pitch black darkness and a lack of sleep to throw you off. We'd managed to pick the night with a new moon, so even though it was clear, it was really dark. We passed Sparrowhawk Biv and groups of deer before launching ourselves into the first serious leatherwood bashing of the trip. The last couple of hours before daybreak weren't fun in the least. But the sunrise was amazing. A bright line of increasing orange on the horizon. The sky was completely clear with the central North Island mountains sitting strong and blue against a background of soft pink. We'd lost a bit of time overnight and ran into Armstrong Saddle as the sun rose fully. There was no need to drop down to the hut because water isn't usually a problem on the Ruahine tops, and we definitely weren't bailing. And pressing on marked a really significant CL single push milestone, as this was the furthest anyone had been before. Time for another session of leatherwood bashing, and then on to Te Atou Parapara. Coming off here is one of the trickiest sections of the main range. The rock underfoot is crumbly and the ridge is really narrow with steep drop-offs on both sides, as you can kind of see there. It requires a certain level of concentration and just going for it, things that are a little tricky to summon after 22 hours on the go. Partway through, Katie called out to me, "This is a good time to tell you I'm kind of scared of heights, right?" Probably not, Katie. Unfortunately, it's not the nicest scree descent either because it's a bit too shallow. Well, that was mildly terrifying, Katie said as she reached me at the bottom. The day was starting to warm up, but a light breeze prevented it from becoming unbearably hot. The views of the surrounding topography were amazing. It felt like we're on top of the world. This is definitely one of my favourite spots. This way? Asked Katie. Possibly. Probably. Yes, I replied as we turned sharply and dropped down a steep rocky chute. The ground unstable underfoot. We were back in another technical section. Then we had to negotiate a big rocky outcrop. Dropping down under it, we scrambled up scree on the other side. I was feeling a bit fed up with what felt like unnecessary down and up. "This is a great run," I complained as I hauled myself up with my hands. Puffing and clambering, we made it around the rock. We were back on the ridge. The clambering wasn't over though. The final ascent onto Pe Mutu had us hauling ourselves by handfuls of tussock while dodging clumps of speargrass. On top, the ridge narrowed again. I focused on getting through one small rocky section at a time. Concentrating was hard, and we'd run out of water. I knew there was a big tarn coming up, but it was further on than I remembered, which played with my mind. I wondered if we'd missed it, or if it had dried up. I knew neither of these scenarios were possible, but I worried anyway. We were both relieved when we saw water glinting at the end of the ridge. Then we dropped another 200 metres and climbed more up the other side to the north end of Sawtooth Ridge. I was struggling. This hill felt hard and pointless, and to top it off, I was overheating. I also had that middle of nowhere feeling, like you've gone a long way, but you still have a really long way to go. Then I received some messages from my friends and workmates, which really helped. Sawtooth was relatively straightforward. I'd done it a couple of times before and found it fun. There was some clambering, but it's easy and the rock is solid. I lost the plot a bit though, convincing myself that it was hard, and poor Katie was very patient with me. Funny what 30 hours without sleep will do. I was sure I had to down climb some horrible bit and I'd probably fall off and hurt myself. Turned out neither the down climbing nor the falling eventuated. Our feet were starting to hurt. I felt liquid oozing in my socks and was pretty sure I had blisters that had burst. Arriving at Howlett's hut, the sole occupant came out to say hello and asked the "where have you come from?" question. It took him a while to comprehend we'd started yesterday morning, hadn't slept anywhere, and weren't stopping there for the night either. Hut book entry, absolutely stunning, but maybe never to be repeated. On a side note, I met that guy again several months later, and he told me he was very relieved to know that we were still alive. So, Daphne Ridge is marked as a poled route on the map, but don't be deceived. In reality, it's overgrown with leatherwood and scratchy subalpine scrub, as you can see here. I swallowed 2 paracetamol and pressed on, trying to numb my mind so I didn't feel the pain in my aching feet. We lost more time in this section too. Dipping down and up out of the saddle through the overgrown track was nothing short of demoralising. By the time we regained the tussock, the wind had picked up and it was chilly. At 7 p.m, I sent a message saying, "My legs are fine, but my feet are a mess." I mentally recalculated our estimated time to finish time till midnight. However, I found another gear and took the lead, pushing hard to make Tunapo and its down climb before dark. But the wind got too cold, so we briefly ducked off the ridge to pull on several extra layers. Cresting Tunapo, we were treated to sunset number 2, complete with the black outline of the South Island silhouetted against the final golden glow. It was head torch time again. The next section looked unfamiliar in the dark, and we were travelling in the opposite direction to the previous times I'd done it. Katie was in front now. She walked to the edge of a large rock and peered off. "Not down here," she called, shining her light down the steep drop. But it was down there. We backtracked, sidled a bit, and came at it from a different angle. Then I recognised where we were. I took the lead, down climbing and holding onto handfuls of leatherwood and small clumps of tussock. At the bottom, we sat out of the wind and regrouped, glad to have that bit over. The rest was pretty straightforward. I set off in front, loving my new head torch. And there was a ground trail for the most part, so I pushed through the dark, windy night, periodically stopping to check and wait for Katie. Her head torch was getting a bit dim, her feet were painful, and she was down on energy. But then we're on Toka, and soon after that the sign for Night's Track appeared. We could finally head off the tops. The last couple of hours seemed to take forever. We were both trying not to fall asleep on our feet as we hobbled down the hill. I put music on and tried hard to focus. It felt really strange being back on a track again. It meant the need to concentrate wasn't as urgent and sleep was creeping in at the fringes. Katie was flagging. I shoved a gel at her in the hope that we could move a little faster, I just was keen to be done. Then through the final creek crossing, into the farm paddock, we shuffled across the grass as fine drizzly mist blew in our faces. The style loomed out of the darkness. The excitement, the relief, and the pain were real. We'd done it. For me, but it's not the end, hang on. For me, the CL was such an amazing, humbling experience. Everything I could have wished for and then some. I think what made it more significant to me than any other mission I've done was that it was in my special place. Katie and I definitely developed a stronger friendship and a trust that can only be created through going through this kind of stuff together. We laughed and chatted a lot, important ingredients in any adventure. Let's just say the GoPro audio definitely won't be released for public listening. It gave me the confidence to be brave and try other things, SKs for example, but also in other areas of my life. So I would say to you that if you're wanting to do a mission, find a place that sings to you, an idea that scares you a little and incites your passion for adventure, and go explore. If you do this, then you will come home with way more than just an entry on Strava.
Yeah, you can take it up. Wow, that's a very pleasant way Eleanor describes that mission. Belies the enormity of what they achieved. That was phenomenal. So 36 hours non-stop. 39 hours. 39 hours non-stop. Some of it very technical ridges, and a lot of experienced people would just do sections of that, but they did it all in one go. So it's one of the fantastic, amazing, epic sort of tops achievements that have been done in the last year. So really amazing stuff. So next up we have Dave Allen.
Mount Cowgirls.
Yeah. So Dave doesn't come on my little small missions. They're too small for him. He only does things that involve tops, and I think probably he's going to be moving to Nelson by the amount of times he goes down to the South Island, where they've got proper mountains. Dave's going to be talking about some of his Nelson Lakes missions. Welcome, Dave.
Yeah, hey, I'm Dave, for those who don't know me, and I'm going to talk about a traverse of the Southern Alps from Nelson Lakes National Park that I actually did well over a year ago. It was February 2022, but we had to leave out a little bit, which I'll get to later, and so came back a couple of months ago and finished it off. But it was a long time in the making, and it was an awesome trip. So this came about, it's a mission that Martini, nicknamed SALP, St Arnaud Lewis Pass, but we ended up doing it for logistical reasons south to north, so it doesn't work anymore. But there you go. This open to offers. So this came about sort of just after doing the main range SK, and I was kind of real keen for another big adventure. I've talked enough about that mission, but the sort of big thing for the main range SK for me at that time was the adventure of it. There wasn't really much information. You kind of had to work it out for yourself and go into the unknown. And so I was looking for something else like that. There was a few ideas: the Dragon's Teeth in Kahurangi and Rabbit Pass in Mount Aspiring. They ended up becoming tramps because of knowing people who wanted to do it that way with me. But there was also an article in Wilderness magazine in early 2016 written by a father who did a trip with his son, both well into adulthood. I think they were both farmers in the South Island somewhere, and they did this trip over 10 days that I sort of arrogantly thought, oh, that's taking your time. And as it turned out, it wasn't. They were going hard, as we found out when we were on the ground, and that was no mean feat at all. But anyway, so I kind of saw this and thought, okay, maybe this is really wanted to do similar kind of stuff, but in bigger and bigger mountains. And perhaps this was something that could be a potential SK style thing. It's about 100K, and which is just a little bit over the SK. And anyway, so thought, well, maybe that's it, but it'd probably require recceing to, as with the main range SK, to kind of get my head around what to expect and how to plan for it. And then kind of life got in the way, and the years went past, and it didn't happen, and logistics got in the way as well. And then it came to 2021, and I'd mentioned it to Al Al Shelton in 2016, and he was real keen, and he started talking about the Ruahine as well, which is where that kind of idea came from at the same time. So then fast forward to 2021, and we were going on a run and hadn't done anything like this in quite a long time, and he said, you still keen on that Nelson Lakes thing? And he sort of, I think, was kind of angling for doing it together, and I was like, well, absolutely, like I need all the help I can get if I'm going to do that kind of thing now. Kind of got a little bit fat and old, and therefore reorientated to a fast pack. And the brilliant thing about the fast pack was that it allowed us to do it without recceing. It could take everything that I needed to do whatever you needed to do, and just take what happened. You know, be able to adapt to what we came across. So I had a trip anyway with my partner to the South Island, so it kind of all fit into place. She dutifully dropped us off at Lewis Pass, and that was it. So this route was five passes: 3 Tarn, Derville, Thompson, Wyo, and Travis Saddle. Just over 100K, 5,000 meters of climbing, 7 river valleys, and we gave ourselves 3 days. So we got dropped off at, this is around the wrong way, but you get the gist. That was the elevation profile, and so we kind of, I picked 3 days out of my arse, to be honest, and we got dropped off at Lewis Pass, and have a friend living in St Arnaud, and we had to get there for our pickup. So that was the challenge. Al isn't here tonight, but he did put a great video together. One for Andy with shaky videos and dodgy music of that trip. So I'm going to kind of defer to that for parts of this rather than just talking you through it. And because I love how this stuff looks on maps, there it is in the South Island scale, and then Lewis Pass in the south, and then heading your way through here. There is the Tararua route that goes starts and finishes in roughly the same place, but this route takes about a third to half of it is off track, so it deviates from that significantly, takes in a bunch more passes, more ridge travel, less valley time. So that appealed when I read the story.
Tarn Pass. It's come up from down that one. It's the Lewis Pass off in the distance. See if I can stop it. All right. So day one actually kicked us in the head a little bit more than we expected. The off-track stuff was really gnarly. It was just lots of waist to sort of chest high tussock, lots of spear grass, lots of bogs, lots of kind of nearly breaking your leg, that kind of stuff. And then we also we were kind of relying on the trip notes from the couple that did it. and a few of them turned out to be a little bit bogus. We wouldn't follow them again. And one of them was coming off 3 Tarn Pass, and we sort of traversed across a big boulder scree on the side of a peak to get to reach a ridge line, and we both got to, we were like, it got steeper and steeper and then firmer and firmer, so the risk of sliding was pretty high, and we were both like cats up trees, you know, just like pinning to the side. Got to the other side, and we were both real quiet. We communicate pretty well on this stuff, but we were quiet at that point, and got to the other side, and I said like, fuck, that was a bit hairy, and Al was like, yeah, I was really scared. And I think it was that point we were like, okay, yeah, it's not just me, there's something here. And it looked like you could go down the river, but there was a massive sort of rock wall that bent round to the side, so we assumed you'd get bluffed out. As it turned out, you didn't, so we wasted our time. But anyway, we ended up on this ridge, and that was, you sunk into this sort of stuff, and again, it was like the risk of sort of twisting or breaking an ankle or something was pretty high. And I was a bit nervous because I was the route finder, so I had that weight of responsibility on my shoulders for not getting us into the shit. And so get halfway down that ridge and was like, God, this is really taxing. Come over this rise, and there's this big fat stag going right back at me, and he's wallowing in a pool. He'd been wallowing in a muddy puddle, and there was a bunch more muddy tarns all the way down. And he it's one of those magical moments. He then ran away from me and left this trail where he'd been going back up and forth, wiping his muddy belly all the way down. So we followed his muddy chute, and he picked the right route. So that was how we got down safely. Yeah, and then and the next day was the big day. That was the one with the most three big passes, and that was the crux. We either got to where the minimum point we needed to get to at that day, or it was blown out of the water for 3 days. And we couldn't contact anybody without PLB, so we couldn't let them know that we were going to be late. So yeah, there was a bit of a crux there. And this is it. Oh. See if I can, I've buggered it, so I might see if I can get it to play again. There you go.
Heading up Waiau Pass, which is our third pass of the day, and we're back on a marked track for the first time today actually.
Finally back on a poled route, and Al, unbeknownst to me because I'm in front of him, took a little tumble and sliced his knee, and just on the point where it oozes as you bend. Yeah, so that was that was day 2, and we did get to where we needed to get. I'm kind of into the details too, I guess, because of the route finding, and by this point I was scrutinizing how far we'd gone and how far we had to go, how much we had to climb, and getting a little bit unsure about day 3 if we would make what we had to make. So I was already kind of thinking of plan B, and yeah, and that's, we'll get to that now. But yeah, we turned up to this hut, and we had a fantastic day, but we were pretty shot to bits, and the hut was full. But we had bivy bags, we had obviously our sleeping bags, and we had roll mats. But one by one, the people came one after another out at 8 o'clock at night when we turned up to speak to us. And I guess the story got out, and they were so stoked with this trip we were doing that they ended up like making this big rearrangement inside for 2 beds for us. So that was fantastic. And then at 5 a.m. we're having our coffee out here in the dark, and one of the girls comes out in her underwear and was like, "Have you guys got a like a blog or something? I can find out how you get on." So they were brilliant. It was cool. Anyway, day 3.
Day 3, Traverse Pass.
Yeah, Traverse Saddle.
Woo. Go.
It looks warm, but it was really cold.
Nice work.
The boat pulled in and we got to the head of the lake in case we wanted to lift, and we had to say no because we wanted to. We were like, we're 10k from the end. If we take a boat now, yeah. But that's what we cut out. So on the right is the valley that we took. So we went up Traverse Saddle, which is right at the very bottom, and then to make the time, we just headed straight out the valley, which is still like 30k or something. But we got to the end at I think 6 o'clock at night, which is kind of when I said we would be there, and so we missed out traversing off to Gunsight Pass, down, back up Sunset Saddle, and along the top. So yeah, what that meant was that we didn't make it, and so we had unfinished business. So then we had to do trip 2, and so even that night we had a pizza and a beer. We're like, well, we've got to come back and finish it, and what we've left makes a lovely figure of 8 route. So logistically, that's much easier than Lewis Pass to St Arnaud, and so we're like, we'll come back in 2 weeks, we'll come back in 4 weeks, and that turned into a year. But we did come back, and that route in February this year was retracing our steps back along the Travers Valley, and which was deja vu, but it was beautiful, and getting up to Traverse Saddle again and getting hailed on, and then you drop over the other side, and then you go off track to Gunsight Pass, and then you're sort of over to a hut, back down to the valley bottom, and then back up the next day, up to past Hopeless Hut to Sunset Saddle, Angelus Peak, and out along the top. And to make things a little bit more fun, so that's the route. You can see obviously the valley that we took, and then the sort of figure of 8. Gunsight Pass, there wasn't really a whole lot of information about it. And I'm fortunate enough to have a colleague who works in St Arnaud to chop it over it, and was able to tell me there's no snow on the pass, so you're good to go. And anyway, there was I read one trip report where these guys said there's between Traverse Saddle and there, you've got to head for this notch up on the right. It's a scree slope. If you head for where you think the land is going to take you, you get completely bluffed out, and then you're stuck by that point. So that turned out to be invaluable information. And then to keep things fun, my friend Rose came along, who bothers parrots in the South Island, but is also really handy on mountain missions. So that's looking to Gunsight Pass right there. So I'm just going to save a bit of time, I'm just going to quickly skip through some photos of this trip. We didn't get to, the GoPro, Al's GoPro died within like an hour. So unfortunately, had a technical issue. So we just took a bunch of photos. But that Traverse Saddle's over in the background. So this is kind of traversing across this sort of scree and tussock and scrub that did not disappoint. And that's when we'd climbed up this chute to this point, and that's when you get your first view of the pass, which is off in the distance, which kind of looked vertical, but then like a lot of things that look vertical, when you get close, they're actually not too bad. No, we're traversing down and then back up. Yeah, which is kind of exactly what we just done. It's sort of a mirror image. The beauty of these 2 trips in giving me an impression of Nelson Lakes was there just wasn't a lot of ridge travel. It's just peaks. And then it's like Fjordland, peak, nothing. And in between, if there is anything, it's a pretty damn gnarly ridge that you wouldn't walk across. So it was epic. It was everything I kind of wanted it to be, and that was what made the fast pack great, is we could kind of take our time, work out what we needed to do and adapt to it. We didn't have to worry so much about, within reason, we didn't have to worry too much about going too fast. Yeah, that's us on our little shoot. And then so obviously the approach to that was doable but steep enough to be pretty fun. Yeah, and then a lot of rock scrambling in Nelson Lakes, a lot of rock hopping, and then yeah, little group shot, 3 happy pigs on the top. And that's looking back where we've come. Yeah, and Al was there too, because he's taking most of the photos. He doesn't feature. The chute we were sat on is kind of on that slope off to the right. And then this is down. We dropped down to Cupola Hut, and that's in this amazing kind of subalpine section of this basin, looking up to all these peaks. And we had some, again, full hut. We thought it'd be empty, and it was totally full. And so we thought we'd be bivvying outside, and it was pretty damn cold. But in the end, yeah, they did us proud and made us room. So the next day, yeah, we sort of dropped down, back down to the valley floor, back up this long climb, and again a lot of just kind of boulder hopping, and you have to kind of gain this higher section of the valley to get over Sunset Saddle. And I knew that Tararua trampers sometimes came down this, so I was expecting it to be a little bit more benign than it was, and it was just amazing. It was such a cool route. And I think most people go on that scree. You can go up to the left, and then you gain a bit of a higher section and get over to your right. But that was boring, so we went up the middle of the waterfall. Yeah, there's Al modelling the middle of the waterfall face. This is Rose. Yeah, it was just incredible. And definitely some sketchy points. I had to watch my footing. And then we were treated to more rocks, and we got up to the top. So yeah, and a bit of Tarn as well. And that's just a shot that Al took, which was cool just for the scale. So there's Rose and I tucked in amongst all those rocks. And then, yeah, our reward was Angeles Peak. So we kind of, I remember we had just amazing weather on both trips, and partly that was just luck because we had these dates and it was either going to happen or it wasn't going to happen. We had a couple of bailouts, but we got really lucky with the weekends that we ended up there. And we weren't sure if we would end up on Angeles Peak or whether we just head over for time reasons and just carry on going. But yeah, the weather was just too good, and I think it was one of those moments where all three of us were sat there going, and then one person was like, "No, we got to do it," and so then that was peer pressure enough to get us up there.
Was it much of a climb?
No, not on any other day. No. We were just being lazy. Yeah, so no, it was a hell of a trip, and then we just had out along Robert Ridge, back down to Angeles, Tarn, and then out along Robert Ridge, and then got some. We were trying to beat each other down the hill. There's like a lovely switchback that you can run as fast as you possibly can down. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The sort of defining memory of that was we turn up to these huts, and people would be a little bit sort of unsure of what we'd done and why we'd done it, but then we'd be sat outside at the end of the day, just laughing our heads off and being silly and childish, and one by one people would come out and sort of join this party that was happening outside. So it was just kind of a nice reminder that it was all about having fun, really. That was it. Yeah, thanks. That's me.
So that's the epicness just continues, doesn't it, really? And have you got the GPS?
Oh, yeah. For a fee.
So good. Slightly jealous. So, the last speech of the night is, you may have read about this guy. He's been in the media for 3 months traversed the Southern Alps. At some point they slept in snow caves. Pretty epic stuff. Young intrepid adventurer. Young people. I'll let Tom take over. Tom Hadley, everyone.
Kia ora whānau, ko Taranaki te maunga, runei tōku ngākau, ko Waimea te awa e mahi anei o ku māharahara no ngā motu au, engari kei te noho au ki te whanganui atara inai nei. Ko Dave, rawa ko Kate, o ku mātua no Ingarangi Raua, ko Tom Hadley tōku ingoa. Kia ora. Yeah, met heaps of you guys, I hope, so far at the Southern Cross Nights and really enjoying being part of the community. So yeah, excited to talk to you guys.
Kia ora koutou, ka mahinui ki koutou. Ko Aoraki te mauka, ko Waitawai ki te awa, ko Kaitahu, ko Kāti Mamoe, ko Waitaha o ku iwi, ko Kāti Hui Rapa ki Pukaturaki, ko ku runaka, ko no o te pōti aho, ko Torea ko Torea, it's got 5 tōku ingoa. So I'm Torea, I'm from Dunedin, grew up there. I'm Kaitokie Māori and yeah, now living in Wellington and enjoying all the events up here as well. And yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, we've got a wee presentation. Hopefully we'll keep it fairly efficient. But we did a trip 2 summers ago where we did a traverse of the Kātiritiri o Te Moana, or the Southern Alps of the South Island. Yeah, stoked to tell you guys about it, and yeah, hoping to kind of like convey maybe that like all of these adventures in New Zealand, like these other 2 really cool talks, like they're all like pretty similar in general. They've both got these kind of attributes that make them up, and yeah, we're just really lucky to be able to go out and do these trips. So yeah. Cool, so yeah, a bit of an overview to start with. So it's a 100-day traverse of the Southern Alps. So we're moving a bit slower than these cool as fast working.
3 days, Dave Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so like Arthur's Pass to Fiordland was the goal, and our kind of vision was to stick as close to the main divide as we could, so you know, the divider between the 2 watersheds. So yeah, the travel was very different to these kind of cool as running missions that we get to do here. So yeah, lots of travel on New Zealand's high glaciers and these incredible alpine environments that we've got along the length of New Zealand. And yeah, similar in heaps of ways to like a big run in the Tararua. So yeah, keen to talk about that. Cool. So part 1, preparation. Yeah, do you want to switch
So I guess like a big run in the Tararua, you have to do a lot of preparation beforehand and stock up on food, which can be difficult over such a long time, and we ended up putting in a bunch of different food drops. So we spent several months before the traverse just packing food into boxes, trying to work out what we would need and how to get them there. So we carried a bunch of food drops in ourselves.
Are those buckets?
Those buckets. We bought lots and lots of buckets. Full of the food that we needed, and then got them into the hills. Some of them we like piggybacked on flights that were going places anyway. Some of them our friends carried in, which is very nice of us. And then made our way.
Yeah. Yeah, the food was cool. It was kind of like way more, I think our kind of strategy was to go super high energy, so quite a high fat diet, heaps of nuts, what we're eating, I don't know, nuts, oils, that kind of thing, keeping it super high energy so that you had to carry less in the pack as well. And then in terms of like gear packing, we all had 50-litre packs, so we're doing at most 12 days per section. And we're carrying like a rope, a rack, like alpine gear, so ice axes, crampons, but we kept everything pretty trimmed down, so 5 of us in a 3-person tent. Yeah, and those, sorry, as well, a team of, so there's 4 of us that kind of had the dream, I guess. So Maddie, Connor, Torea and I, and then we had our friends Jamie and Rowan who joined us for various sections. Cool, so part 2. I feel like there's like this settling in phase in these kind of trips where you're just trying to like find the rhythm. So this is Ngoti Rauraka and near the Arthur's Pass. So this is one of the 3 passes on that 3 passes route. I think here there's just like a massive feeling of just like relief at being past this kind of like faffy packing stage. And then all you have to do is just do all this like cool moving in mountains and really get to like enjoy that lifestyle, you know. You're doing these big days, like we're kind of averaging 10 to 12 hours, but then like having these really cool evening times and just settling into that rhythm.
In that first section as well, we got to do, I guess, work out like how interesting the travel was going to get. So we set off through some wild places on the west coast where it was like, okay, yeah, this is like quite difficult travel. So there you can see we're going up. We found this hole in the boulders to get past this waterfall that we like passed our packs up through. and then each of us clambered up through in order to get up to Agfa Knob. And then it was challenging, but it was like cool to get in on that sort of travel together.
Yeah. Okay, so how's it similar to a Tararua run? You got kind of like wild weather, and you get the highs and lows, so you get these like mean high pressure systems where you're having a great time and it's sunny, and then you get difficult weather. So this is like, if you guys know the Bracken snowfields, one of these like really remote ice plateaus and kind of like the top end-ish of the Southern Alps. So we're kind of deep in the west coast. You're at least a long way from anywhere. We gained this ridge called the Kattenbach Ridge, which I think is such a sick name. But yeah, we climbed up there. We had an inReach with us, which we were getting weather on, and the inReach was like, oh yeah, weather's chill, you'll have a great time. And then once we'd like committed and climbed all the way up this ridge, which took us like half a day, the inReach was like, oh no, just chilling. It's actually like a huge southerly storm. So I think we spent like 36 hours. It was probably like, not the biggest storm, but like we were very exposed. We were kind of just like, these massive glaciers behind us and getting on this ridge, just getting nailed by like driving snow. There's like lightning struck the ridge just above us, and we could like feel ourselves like fizzling in the tent. It was like, woo! Yeah, it was pretty exciting, eh?
And again, there are 5 of us in there.
Yeah, she was pretty tight. Cool. No, the tent was strong, eh?
5 people in there, it's very secure.
Yeah.
What tent was that?
So that was a Hilleberg Anjan 3. It's a 3-season cycle touring tent, weighs 1.6 kg. But yeah, you get rewarded. This was like the morning after? Okay, morning after.
This is coming onto the Garden of Eden, which is after some more wild weather. Once again, I guess the day or two before that, we've been pushing pretty hard to work with the weather, and also moved in a bit of weather that was a bit marginal, which was a bit scary, but I guess it paid off on this day when we came up onto the Garden of Eden, and we're just greeted with like this perfect 4 hours of sunshine,
just like still dawn,
glowing ice.
Endless ice. Cool. It's super cool. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, that kind of segues conveniently into these like incredible places that you get to go to on these really cool adventures. So yeah, maybe we're a bit further south now in the kind of Auraki Taiputini area. So we kind of took an unconventional route. Many parties kind of travel through the Auraki on the eastern side, where it tends to be, it's definitely not straightforward, but more traveled. But we're like, nah, let's go west. It'll be cool as. So yeah, we traveled through these super wild, like, I guess they're like glacial moraine areas, but with, low enough that there's all this incredible lush vegetation. But yeah, these places just felt like no one's ever been there, and yeah, I guess that's because no one has been there, which is super cool. So like a lot of the routes that we're doing, this was the day before going over, we kind of had to get around to the backside of Mount Hicks, which allowed us to get into the Hooker Glacier. But yeah, our route through here, this is the Balfour, like involved climbing a peak which hadn't been climbed from that side. So you're kind of like, I don't know, there's a really cool feeling of adventure when you don't know what's around the corner and you're kind of just going for it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I'd just like to point out how this is different from a Tararua run, in that we got to sit down and make a fire.
Yeah, it was super nice. And then we took, no, it was nice, had a rest day, it was cruisy.
So yeah, this was the day after that, or maybe the next couple of days, which kind of blurred in our heads, because I guess in that sort of terrain, you kind of are just, or like, especially because it was the middle of summer, we were mostly moving at night time in the dark, or like more the early morning. But yeah, we got to move through these incredible, beautiful glaciated places that felt very special to be able to be there. And yeah, and I guess like a Tararua run, like the struggle of it is also what makes it so special. And so
yeah. No, I thought, yeah, the section was really cool. And I guess the traveling at night is like, I guess a big thing in summer. We're kind of dealing with these annoyingly high temperatures during the day, which meant that the snow condition, the snow is just sloppy and avalanche prone and horrible to travel through. And it really like plays with your sleep schedule when you're constantly just hitting, I don't know, going for it when the weather's good or going for it when the snow's good. And I think, yeah, that was really taxing for us, and we're all pretty, I don't know, strung out, I guess, dealing with that constant sleep deprivation. But yeah, like super cool mountains, it's so cool. And like, I don't know, these amazing storms rolling through. I guess that's like nor'wester lenticulars coming over on the west coast neves, which is pretty incredible.
And then finally, at the end of that, we got to come down into some beautiful vegetation, and I tell you, vegetation is so nice. It smells nice, it holds the rocks together so the rocks don't just fall apart. It's just like, beautiful travel. Especially when it's like this. Later in the day, we were like bush bashing through really thick scrub, and I was less happy, but definitely that feeling of coming off glaciers into these sorts of places. It's really special.
Yeah, so you can sort of see
as
well there's like an indication that you've got these trips. So, especially during this section where it's quite alpine. So yeah, we had trail runs on our feet whenever boots weren't needed. But then we had climbing boots, ice axe, crampons, snow skates. Yeah, makes for like a reasonably heavy pack.
Quite slow.
Yes.
Roughly how heavy?
I'd say like at the start of a big section with full food, up 25. Maybe? Yeah. Base weight 15. Yeah. And that was pretty slimmed down. Like, yeah. Hard work.
So I guess the next way this was, like, I guess there's a point on a trip where you just like get into a nice rhythm and then you're like, man, this is awesome, I can keep this up forever. So the next section of the trip, we were like out of the glaciers. So that meant that we could travel in the daylight, sleep at night, which is just two great things. I guess I quite like sleeping. But so for the next section, just Tom and I carried on at that point. So I guess the section before was very taxing, and Maddie and Connor stepped out, needed a rest. So it was just Tom and I, and we were like, okay, coming back in. The one thing we can't forget is the phone, because that's got like spare maps and beta, and it's just a very useful thing to have. So we started walking and
Tom, you also forgot your phone on the S-K.
Well, I don't know. You know those inReach minis where you can like typing, and if you don't connect it to a phone, it just goes up and down arrows. So we're kind of like, how do you get from this place to this place? And you're like texting it all with an up and a down arrow. Left beta and twice at home.
We did have paper maps, but yeah, I guess it was quite cool also being in that sort of space, and you are just like, I guess just navigating off the landscape around you and your paper map, and really taking such good notice of the places you're travelling through, and getting to really appreciate the travel and the movement and
Cool. I reckon this is super relevant to SK. So this is like, if you know the Haas Pass highway road that goes from like Wanaka over to the west coast, if you start from Haas Pass, the main divide, and then go south, like point your nose towards Fjordland, there's this amazing section of main divide, and it's just continuous like subalpine / alpine ridge travel that took, I don't know, days, and it just all melted into this one like glorious ridgeline journey. And I know Andy's done some really cool trips, a really epic trip in here as well. But yeah, I'd super recommend checking out those ridgelines. It's an amazing place to go travel.
Very flowy.
Yeah.
This is on the Aitooth at the head of the Blue Valley. So we'd come along the ridgelines, we had to drop down into the Blue and come back up onto the Aitooth. We came around the back of the Aitooth, and then again we're in these really remote places. And there's this really, really cool rock penguin that we didn't take a very good picture of, but it was just this gigantic like pillar of rock with this head on top of it. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I think you should all go visit.
Lots of sleep. Yeah, I feel like there's also, during these sections, there's like these highs and lows of energy levels as well. Like some days you're stoked and you're like, yo, let's go climb some stuff and do these really cool peaks, and then other times you're just like completely shattered.
Hey, Torea. I've been internalizing a very complicated situation in my head.
What's that?
Bro, I don't think you should climb. You're too wasted. Just crash here. We gotta crash here.
Yeah. So yeah, we spent a bunch of time just being kind of cooked, which is kind of fun as well. Yeah, pretty tiring.
It was like, we just picked up a new food drop and then we're like, let's go climb that mountain with our pack full of food. We've been going for 14 days straight. We can do this. We're so strong. And then we got up the hill and we're like,
Yeah, didn't go well. Yeah, this is kind of like the last-ish section, last hurrah. But I feel like this is like the part in, a big Tararua run where you're kind of digging deep, you feel pretty taxed, you're kind of strung out, and you can kind of feel the tug of the end a wee bit, but you're still enjoying the moment, but it's really hard. So yeah, that was quite cool. So this was going into the Olivine Wilderness area, if you, I'm sure heaps you know about that. But yeah, heading from the Matukituki Valley over into the Arawhata River, which kind of takes you into this absolutely wild bit of wilderness. And yeah, I don't know, it's so remote, so difficult. There's no, because of its wilderness area status, there's no tracks, there's no huts, there's no signs of civilization at all, really. So all the travel is very difficult.
Wow.
awesome. And also very incredible, I guess. So this day, the day after this, we went from
we camped there.
Up here, we camped down here, up, and then up through in there to gain the Olivine Ice Plateau. So obviously on this day we're standing there looking at our route being like, okay.
Oh, we feel fine.
But then also I guess one of the things that really struck us, especially in this area, was thinking about glaciers. And so I guess in the past this route was a pretty straightforward route on like a couloir full of snow. And then I guess the glaciers that you see coming down into that lake were like actual huge glaciers. So looking at this and being like, I wonder if this route's actually going to still be possible without the glaciers there. So that was a pretty...
Yeah, it's kind of sad. It's almost like a grieving process sometimes. You're in these incredible places, but you're also having this kind of grief about things that have been lost in these places, and sometimes that's forest, like in various parts of Te Ika Maui. But yeah, in the South Island, one of the things that you kind of get kind of sad about is the loss of ice, and yeah, it's super obvious when you're trying to travel on it and then it's not there, and you're kind of doing hard rock climbing when you shouldn't be. It's really frustrating. But yeah, epic forests, like these really cool walls of sphagnum moss that were really fun.
Highly recommend the area.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Finally I guess we came out onto sort of like the 5 passes route near Glenorchy. which was such a relief after the Olympians, just to have like a bit of a foot track and cairns to follow, and being able to do more like sort of bridge travel. That's looking back the way we came, but I guess after that it all mellowed out and felt like a really awesome, like sort of nice travel from there, and then we hit the route burn track with all these people everywhere. And like, oh my goodness, people,
they had bananas.
They're eating bananas.
You're like,
They're looking at us with our like big packs, with our like glacier travel gear, and they're like, "Have you been on some snow?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, like a week ago."
But you can't look at them, you start looking at the bananas. Yeah, so this is kind of like two takeaways. I feel like it's hard to condense it into bullet points. Yeah, I feel like a really cool thing about how all of these adventures we go on in New Zealand are quite similar. They've all got pretty similar parts to them. And I think that's epic. Within this amazing Pandora, where it's really not difficult to find these amazing adventures and these beautiful places to go and explore. I'm really stoked and passionate about making the most of these local adventures, and you don't need helicopters and international travel and all that kind of stuff to have a good time. So yeah.
And that I guess ties into, there's a lot of environmental impacts, but doing trips like this in the mountains, you really see how you can have a really nice time in the mountains without having that much of an impact. Just by going running or tramping or however it works for you. And those things, you can be in those places and really appreciate the places without doing things that harm them. And it's lots of fun.
Someone asked me the other day, so what inspired you to do this big trip? And I was sort of thinking back on it, and I was like, I think it's just fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah.
Do the fun things.
Yeah, it's really cool. Oh, and heaps of people helped us, especially these corporate people, which is quite nice. Yeah, cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks. That was inspiring. It's really inspiring. I mean, to be so young with so much mountain knowledge, to do something as epic as that, it's fantastic. Really, thanks for that. That's amazing. So the last section of the evening, Patupaiarehe Award, which is an award for Swallow envisaged to be passed on to people who've done something far beyond the norm in the Tararua range every year. And we've got Paul Helm to present. If you don't mind, Paul, if you put the shirt.
Thank you. No worries. Thanks, everybody. Just realised with something that Andy was saying earlier. The SK started with a Yorkshireman. It's back to a Yorkshireman. And Swallow was a Yorkshireman as well. And he was the one that came up with this idea of this award for people that went way beyond what mere mortals do. And what we've just heard is what mere mortals don't do. That just totally outfaces me, I've got to say. But this is about the Tararuas. This is about people that have really gone way beyond the norm, way beyond what mere mortals do. And they do it because they've got a passion about the Tararuas. So, for the first time, we have 2 award winners. And there's a really good reason behind that, because one of the people has put so much passion into the Tararuas over the years, over a lot of years. I've been out here over 30 years now. I met Derrick. Most of you will know who Derrick Field is, I would hope, because if you follow what's going on with the tracks, the huts, more into the tracks, more into the huts, the running going way, way back, Derrick has put so much effort into all of that and continues to do that now in terms of cutting our tracks for us, marking our tracks for us, so that if you happen to go into an area that hasn't been used for a long time and you happen to fall over, like me, and need a helicopter to get you out there, then you tell Derrick, and a couple of weeks or months later he's remarked the tracks so you don't have to fall out and get a helicopter out. So I take my hat off to Derrick every single time. Derrick, would you like to come up here? Because I would really like to say thank you for everything you've done for all of us, not just for yourself. You get a lot of passion out of this, I know, and you put a lot of passion into it. But actually these folks get a lot of benefit out of what you do in terms of the huts and everything. I've contacted Derrick on occasion and said, oh yeah, I was out at Ret Forks recently and the wood pile's going a bit low. And then he says, oh yeah, I'm just flying in, we'll just cut some more wood, and there you go. And it's done. So if you ever need any advice on tracks, if you ever want, you know, to say, well, I'm going to go there, can you do the wood pile for me, then Derrick's the man to talk to. So Derrick, congratulations. On that note, Derrick, that is a wee gift for you to take. It's one that's been put together by Tim. You'll know where that is instantly, I'm sure, because you know that. I mean, bear in mind that you know, Derrick was out there when Colin did his SK the first time. You did that first section.
Did you?
And that was
you were with lightweight gear and all the rest of it. No, that was hard enough just there, but I thought and getting home was even harder. Yeah, that was a memorable day. Yeah, I only just come down here and sort of have a listen. But I'm quite keen on Tim's photos that he's been showing up, and I always thought I should try to get one. Thanks very much. Anyone who wants to do any track cutting or hut work or whatever have you, there's plenty of opportunities coming up. Nick here has been doing quite a bit for this, and Ian helped us with the cone saddle track, because we thought that whoever was doing the Valleys SK really didn't might benefit from that. And thanks very much. I'm quite
and just so you know, Derrick, there is a special koru put on here for you, because there are 2 award winners this time for this wonderful article, as I will call it, that Tim has created. And this is where, you know, a few of you will have seen in the photos earlier Chris Swallow's swallow that he used to have on his motorcycle outfit, but also additional koru being put on there for you. So that's something that will last forever. But you can take that one home with you and enjoy that. And thank you. Thank you. Do you want to take that?
I should be getting this.
Well,
who's number 2?
Who's number 2? I said there'd be 2. You can actually hand that onto the number 2 in that case. Kyle, where are you? So, wanted to say, Kyle, thank you very, very much for your efforts earlier on. It's a great window you put in our rental. Oh no, the one I'm talking about. Not a work here. No. Sorry, Kyle is a brilliant builder. He did some work for me earlier this year. How he then fits in.
I didn't pay for this advertising.
How he fits in the running, and I know, I think we even on that occasion we're going, oh, we can't do it that day. Why? Because he wants to go running. We can't do it that day because we want to do something else. Anyway, we've managed to fit it all in. But Kyle doing his 1500s, an SK 1500s, going all the way through from the north to the south as a single push on his own is just absolutely fantastic. And that is why, Kyle, your Koru is on there as well, and that is why we would like you to take this and look after it for this year, be our custodian for the year, and thank you for your efforts this year. Kyle's done so many different things, and he puts so much back into supporting other people. He's always there for other people when you're doing whatever it is, valleys, main range, other odd things that I can't do anymore. Kyle will be out there tracking, but also helping you. He's one of those great people who is out there. So thank you, Kyle, and congratulations on your achievement this year.
It's an excuse to go for a run myself.
Very good.
Thank you to everyone. Because this isn't a one-person effort. Like, it's 4 years of a stupid amount of weekends spent in the hills and weekdays spent in the hills and stuff like that. When I first came up with I want to do the 1500s, so tried to optimize the route a little bit, and funnily enough, one of the first people I messaged was Derrick, and I want to do a middle crossing and go from Angle Knob to the main range and kind of cross out. It didn't end up happening in the end, but I messaged Derrick and asked, how do I get from Angle Knob to the main range? And he responded with a picture of the topo map with different coloured dots on each of the spurs, telling me exactly what the travel was like on every single one of those spurs and recommended which was the best one. So when I do get round to going in that sort of area, I know the spur to get up to Kaitokie from the eastern side nice and easily now.
I thought it was right.
I hope it hasn't changed. So thank you, and thank you to everyone else who helped, and Tim, who I spent a lot of time with on the day.
It was a good bumping into.
Yeah, no, it was good fun. So yeah.
And can I just say thank you to Tim for actually putting this together, because it's a fantastic piece. The amount of time and effort you've put in and the amount of your heart that you've put into it is really recognised in that as well. So thank you. Thank you, folks.
Hopefully it inspires some more big dreams, eh?
Hopefully the earlier talks inspire the big dreams. So go and do 100 days. I'm waiting for the I'm waiting for the next person that goes through and does a single push all the way through the huts and the SK. That'll be a good one. Challenge yourself.
There has been talk of the huts.
Oh, not surprised. Okay.
So I guess that wraps up the evening, and as usual it's always a great, there's a lot of mountain experience. I say to people, this is a lot of mountain experience in this room, and hopefully people that may see something here may get inspired to do a mission themselves within their range of ability, and we'll just keep pushing on with the awesome adventures that are happening at the moment. So yeah, that wraps up 2023. Well done, everyone. See you again next year. See what happens. But that was great talks, everyone. I thought they were brilliant. Thanks, everyone.